what if, and just hear me out on this one, what if we could actually just stop getting older? Like not just adding a few years here and there, but putting the brakes on aging entirely.
Now that's a concept.
That's exactly what we are diving into today, so get ready. We're tackling, would it be a utopia?
Or are we talking about opening up a whole Pandora's box of unintended consequences?
We've got all these scenarios, each one like a window into this world where everybody's forever young, and trust me, it gets wild.
It really does. And what I think is so fascinating about these scenarios is that they're not just about like the science of living longer, right? They really dig into what it means to be human when time like isn't a factor anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like imagine what it does to society, to art, to how we see the world. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
I'm excited.
So scenario number one, this is a thriller. It's called the immortality divide.
Ooh.
So picture this, Neo-London, 2142, sleek, advanced.
Okay.
But here's the thing, the cure for aging. It's like the hottest commodity, only the ultra wealthy can get their hands on it.
Okay, so we're already seeing this divide.
Oh, a massive divide. And this is where the story gets really interesting. We meet Elias, brilliant scientist, but from the wrong side of the tracks.
Okay.
And he's lived this inequality.
He knows it firsthand.
His mother, she dies from a disease that's now totally curable, but only if you're one of the elite.
Wow.
So you can imagine this lights a fire in him.
I bet.
He joins up with this group called the Reclaimers. They're like the Robin Hoods of biotech.
Okay.
Their mission,
Yeah.
steal the cure, give it to the people.
Oh, I like them already.
Talk about high stakes.
Huge. So are we talking like Ocean's 11 level heist here?
Oh, even bigger.
Yeah.
We're talking about breaking into the most secure labs in the world.
This is high tech, high stakes.
Life, death, and immortality hanging in the balance.
Wow. Okay, so they pull it off.
Let's just say it's not all smooth sailing.
Of course not. It's never that easy, is it?
Never that easy, right? Because then we meet Jenny. She's a young heiress, already had the cure, living proof that even with forever on your side, life isn't always perfect.
Right. Money can't buy happiness.
And it definitely can't buy you freedom from Kronos fatigue.
Kronos fatigue. What's that?
It's like this deep existential exhaustion from living for centuries.
Oh, wow. Like being tired of existing.
Like you've seen it all, done it all, and you're just, I don't know, over it.
So it's like the burden of immortality. That's kind of a dark twist.
Right. And it throws a wrench in the whole immortality fantasy.
It makes you think, if immortality comes at the cost of our mental and emotional well-being, is it a price we're willing to pay?
Exactly. And that brings us to scenario 2, which goes even deeper into this.
Okay.
Forget about society for a second. We're talking about the very personal struggle of what happens when too much time starts to weigh on the human mind.
This is getting good.
This is where we meet Sarah, a historian who's used age reversal technology to live for centuries. And she's got this incredible wealth of knowledge.
Centuries of knowledge. That's amazing.
Imagine all that she's seen, all that she remembers.
And all the people she's met, the stories she could tell.
Exactly. But it's not all sunshine and roses.
What's the catch?
Well, it turns out all those memories, they start to have a cost. She's dealing with some serious mental effects from this memory overload.
Wow. So it's like her mind is full.
It's like her mind is this endless library, but it's overflowing and she can't find anything anymore. And that's where the ethical stuff comes in.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
There's this specialist, Dr. Chen, and he proposes using gene editing to erase some of Sarah's memories.
Wait, hold on. Erase memories, like hitting delete on a computer.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a clean slate, but for your mind.
That's a lot to unpack. Could you even do that without fundamentally changing who Sarah is?
Right. Where do we even draw the line? Is it even ethical to mess with memories like that?
It makes you question what even is identity. Is it our memories, our experiences?
And if you start erasing them, are you still the same person?
These are big questions.
Massive. But you know what's even crazier? This isn't just some theoretical debate.
No.
In this scenario, Sarah's case, it sparks this worldwide debate about the ethics of memory manipulation.
Oh, wow. So it goes public.
Oh yeah, front page news, protests, it's dividing families, the whole 9 yards.
It shows how quickly these things, what we see as futuristic concepts could become our reality, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, we've been talking about how curing aging would impact us personally and as a society, but there's this whole other level to consider.
Hit me.
The planet.
Ah, right. This little blue marble we call home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're already pushing it pretty close to the limit, even with people, not living forever. So what happens when you throw an ageless population into the mix?
Yeah, the overpopulation crisis, that's the scenario that really keeps me up at night.
Me too. It's like we solve one massive problem aging and bam, we just create a whole bunch of new ones to take its place.
And these aren't just hypothetical problems either. We're talking about the things you see on the news every day, resource depletion, climate change, all of that, but on a scale that's almost impossible to imagine.
So walk me through it. What does the world actually look like in this overpopulation crisis scenario?
It's definitely not pretty. The scenario touches on different potential outcomes, some more dystopian than others, but one thing's for sure, things get really complicated really fast.
I bet. We're talking about a planet that's already struggling to support its current population. What happens when you take away death as a natural part of the equation?
Well, we get to meet this woman named Lena, and she's part of this resistance movement that's pushing back against some of the more extreme population control measures that governments are putting in place.
Extreme how?
Think mandatory sterilization, limits on childbirth, that kind of thing. It's a world where having children becomes this highly regulated act.
It's heavy stuff. So we figure out how to cheat death, and then we have to decide who gets to live and who doesn't.
Exactly. It's a moral minefield, and there are no easy answers. But Lena and her group, they represent a different way of thinking. Instead of accepting these drastic measures, they believe we can find a way out of this mess, a way to coexist sustainably on a planet that's already bursting at the seams.
I like their optimism. So how do they think we're going to pull that off?
They're putting their faith in human ingenuity, sustainable energy, vertical farming, even space colonization. They believe if we can dream it up, we can make it happen. They're not giving up on humanity.
Okay, but realistically, how far can those kinds of solutions go?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The scenario doesn't shy away from the enormity of the challenge, but it does offer a glimmer of hope. It suggests that even when things seem impossible, even when we're backed into a corner, humans have this remarkable capacity for innovation and adaptation.
It's a nice thought, even if it's a little hard to fully wrap your head around.
I hear you. But hey, if we can't indulge in a little bit of hope, then what's the point of exploring these what-ifs in the first place?
That's a good point. Okay, so we've gone from individual anxieties to the fate of the planet. But what about something a little closer to home? Let's talk about the impact of an ageless existence on art and creativity.
Yeah.
So we're stepping into a world where the phrase aging gracefully takes on a whole new meaning.
I see what you did there.
We're talking about the ageless muse scenario, and it puts the spotlight on Devin, an artist who decides, you know what, I'm going to stick around and see how this whole not aging thing affects my art.
Now that's an artist residency with a twist.
Right. No deadline pressure from Father Time for this guy. And his story, it isn't just about one artist's journey. It's a reflection of how an entire society grapples with art that's, well, no longer bound by the human lifespan.
Because let's face it, in the real world, artists, they're working within the same constraints as the rest of us. They've got a limited amount of time to make their mark.
Exactly. So back to Devin. He's living in this ageless world, and at first, his work, it's pretty standard stuff.
Oh, you know, the classics. Angsty self-portraits, maybe a still life with a bowl of fruit that's seen better days.
You know it. But then, things start to get really interesting. As Devin lives longer and has more experiences, we're talking centuries here, his art takes this sharp turn.
Oh, how so?
He goes all in on this bio-art stuff, like incorporating actual living organisms and technology into his pieces.
Hold on, living organisms? Is he creating those chia pet sculptures from the 80s?
Think way beyond chia pets. We're talking living sculptures that evolve and change right there in the gallery.
Wow, talk about pushing boundaries. So how does the art world react to this?
It's totally divided. Some critics are calling it groundbreaking, the future of art, while others are like, whoa, hold up, this isn't even art anymore.
Yeah, it really makes you question what we even consider art when you remove the context of a human lifespan. Does art need that sense of urgency, that awareness of our own mortality to really resonate?
Deep thoughts for an art exhibit.
Right, but that's what's so great about this scenario. It forces us to confront those questions head on.
Okay, but I have to ask, is there ever a point where Devin's art becomes, I don't know, too detached from the human experience? I mean, he's lived for centuries, seen it all, done it all. Do his emotions, his experiences, do they even translate anymore to people who are just, you know, living a normal lifespan?
It's a valid question, and the scenario leaves it open-ended. But maybe that's the point, right? It's not about finding the right answer, but about exploring these uncharted territories of human experience, or in this case, post-human experience.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of pushing the boundaries of human experience, let's talk about the time traveler's dilemma. This one takes us on a wild ride.
Oh, I'm ready. Ship me with it.
Imagine this. You decide to undergo this radical age reversal process. You're biologically young again, but your mind, it's still carrying all the memories, all the baggage of centuries of life.
So, like, I could order off the senior menu, but I'd still remember when gas was a nickel a gallon.
More or less.
Yeah.
But it's also way more intense than that. It's like waking up in a world that's completely foreign to you, even though you've lived through all its changes.
Talk about culture shock.
And that's exactly what happens to Kaido.
Right. The one struggling to find his place in a world that's moved on without him. What happens with him?
Well, it turns out he's not alone. He finds others like him, people who've undergone age reversal and are trying to find their footing in this strange new world.
So they form, like, a support group.
More like a community, a tribe.
Okay, I like it. A tribe of time travelers.
They call themselves chrononauts. And they become these keepers of the past.
Keepers of the past.
Like, they remember what it was like to live in a world where time was finite, where death was a certainty.
Oh, wow. So they become like living history books.
Exactly. And they use their memories, their stories, to help bridge the gap between the old world and this new ageless society.
That's actually beautiful.
Right. It's like in a world that's so obsessed with the future.
Obsessed with living forever.
They remind us of the importance of remembering where we came from, you know.
I love that. So what about Isabel? She's still fighting for those second chances, right?
Oh, absolutely. She's on a mission to change the way we think about criminal justice. And let me tell you, it's no easy feat.
Especially in a world where people could theoretically live forever.
Right. Like, if someone commits a crime, how long do they have to pay for it?
Yeah, if they could potentially live for centuries, does a 10-year sentence even mean anything?
Exactly. It throws a whole new wrench into the system. And Isabel's trying to find a way to balance accountability with the possibility of redemption.
It's a tough needle to thread.
No kidding, but she's determined to prove that people can change, even if they've made mistakes in the past.
Good for her. Everyone deserves a second chance.
That's what she's fighting for. And her story really shines a light on the fact that even in this futuristic world, we're still wrestling with the same fundamental questions about justice, forgiveness, and what it means to build a society that truly values second chances.
It's inspiring, really.
It is, and it makes you think, even if we do conquer aging, are we really making progress if we don't address these deeper issues, these systemic problems that have plagued us for centuries?
It's a good question, and one that I think we'll be wrestling with long after this deep dive is over.
And that's a wrap on What If We Could Cure Aging. We've covered everything from personal identity crises to the fate of art and even the challenges of overpopulation. Safe to say, it's a future with endless possibilities and a whole lot of ethical dilemmas to wrestle with.
It's enough to make you wonder if hitting the pause button on aging is really all it's cracked up to be.
That's the question we leave you with today. Would you choose immortality if it meant facing those dilemmas? What would your future self say? Until next time, keep those deep thoughts brewing, because that's what the deep dive is all about.